What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Player Pool. We're looking at the Week 16 main slate for Sunday, and we have a couple games with huge playoff implications, including one that's going completely overlooked this week, and I'm going to get into it right after this.
We built another winning showdown lineup featuring Sunday night's Vikings versus Cowboys game. Here's how it went down.
Let's see what would happen if we put Aubrey in that captain. I think Aubrey could be busy tonight. I think the Cowboys are going to be able to move the ball, but they could stall out, and that'll set up Brandon Aubrey to be kicking long field goals tonight.
Aubrey's got one from 26, 37, and now 41.
Javonte Williams, this is going to be where Dallas maybe goes back a little bit to the run against this Minnesota team where Dak should struggle a bit tonight.
Williams into the end zone for a Cowboys touchdown.
I do kind of like Jalen Naylor. He's been getting targeted by J.J. McCarthy. Naylor is going to be very interesting for us tonight, especially with that ownership in this matchup. It's going to be overlooked.
RB to the end zone. Touchdown, Jalen Naylor.
We got Dak to Lamb. Put McCarthy in there if we wanted to.
McCarthy gritty on his way to the end zone.
That's a little nasty right there.
Congrats to GameScript viewer Basie Babe for shipping DraftKings $5 single entry showdown with this lineup. Subscribe at sportnuggets.com today to get all our showdown insights for the next game.
What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Player Pool. We're going over the Week 16 Sunday main slate in this one, and we're going to build some DraftKings showdown or DraftKings main lineups, and should be some good matchups here. We got a lot of playoff implications this week, including a couple games that are going overlooked that should not be. We got a divisional rivalry game, which I love to target. Where the players have a history of, going off against each other. And then there's a revenge game narrative in one of those too. So got a lot to go over in today's matchup or today's matchups. So make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 70 likes and put my favorite plays in the insight section over on sportnuggets.com. We've been hitting on those insights recently, built a bunch of winning showdown lineups on the show recently as well. We had that one from Basie Babe that ended up winning a tournament. She used the lineup that we built on the show. And then we had another viewer recently that also hit on a showdown contest. Congrats to Mosher8124 or Mosh8124. He ended up hitting in a showdown contest using the Darren Waller build. He swapped out, I believe we had Waddle in there instead of Rodgers. He ended up swapping that out and ended up hitting for 8,500 on the showdown contest the other night. So congrats to him. It's been pretty hot run recently. We've had a lot of the insights hitting over on sportnuggets.com, and it's just been one of those heaters where like we're hitting a lot of the winning showdown lineups on the show. A lot of the heat seeker plays that we use in the underdog videos have been hitting. I got like 5 or 4 out of the last 6 of those hit. Did not hit on my Treylon Burks one for the Saturday slate, but Treylon Burks had 2 incidents where he had pass interference, one in the end zone where Cooper DeJean was like literally grabbing his arm and the refs didn't call it, but he almost, he got a hand on the ball in the end zone. And then there was another one where the defender completely had him wrapped up around the waist right at the goal line where he was trying to dive for a ball. So he almost hit that. So it would have been 5 out of the last 6, but instead it's 4 out of the last 6 that hit. So been running hot on the insights and the heat seekers for sportnuggets.com. You're going to want to sign up for a sportnugget.com account. You can see it refreshes there automatically every few minutes. But basically, we're going to be going behind a paywall here soon. and before Christmas, and we're going to give the OGs who sign up for an account an opportunity to get a pretty big discount for the life of their subscription. So you're going to want to go and subscribe right now to sportnuggets.com to be able to access that. All my picks go on sportnuggets.com. In the insight section, I can show you real quick how to get there. You basically, for a main slate, you're basically just going to go sort here. You're going to sort it by insights. I haven't added any for this slate yet. I'm waiting for a little bit more news to come out, but you can see some of the ones that I had for the Saturday slate. Didn't pan out this week. I was very high on Jordan Love. He ended up going out with a concussion in the second quarter. That game ended up being pretty exciting towards the end of it, but we did not get an opportunity to see what Jordan Love could have done in that one. And the chalky Jalen Hurts builds and the Eagles game stacks or team stacks ended up doing really well this week. Dallas Goedert, had him. Swift did not do anything. Mariota, another one of my guys that ended up getting hurt and taken out of the game. And Barkley obviously went off. So some of those insights hit, but for the most part, Saturday was a bust for me. Hopefully you guys did better. If you did, shoot me your lineups and I'll tweet them out for you. But heading into this week's slate, we have a pretty interesting slate. I think there's a lot of chalk that isn't necessarily going to the right place, but I do think that some of the chalkier spots like Amon-Ra St. Brown make a lot of sense and are good chalk. But there are some games that are going overlooked this week that we want to focus on, and I'll get into that in a minute. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I'm trying to get to 2,500 subscribers. I only need about 40 something left to get there. Ultimately, I want to try to get to 3,000 by the end of the season, so I need to get to 2,500 first. So I'm trying to get there by the end of this week to keep the pace. So hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. You want to subscribe anyways to get access to all these shows when they go up during the playoffs. I'm going to be putting up all sorts of Saturday slates, Sunday slates, whatever slates we have. And this continues throughout up until the Super Bowl. And also you want to subscribe because I've got playoff best ball coming up. You see a promo on my screen for Underdog. You use the promo code SEEK over on Underdog. If you're a new account, they're going to give you a $100 cash bonus instead of a $50 bonus cash for playing on Underdog. You're going to play $5. They're going to give you that $100 bonus, and you can use that on Underdog contests and get into this playoff best ball that I'm going to be creating shows for. Probably do my first one this week. We got a busy week with Christmas this week. There's going to be 3 games on Thursday. A lot of stuff that you're going to want to keep track of. Another reason to subscribe to the channel. But take advantage of these promo codes. Like I said, use the promo code SEEK over on Underdog. You get a $100 bonus when you make your first $5 play. Over on BetMGM, they're going to give you up to $1,500 risk-free in bonus bets. If you make a bet and lose $200, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if you lose that money. So it's a risk-free bet for your first bet. Basically, whatever you bet up to $1,500 and you lose, they're going to make it up to you in bonus bets. So take advantage of that. BetMGM, use the promo code HEATER1500 to take advantage of that. And let's get into this slate. We got Cincy versus Miami to lead things off. This game has a high total. It's been kind of weird with the Joe Burrow stuff, and we're looking at a 50.5 point total on this one with Cincinnati as 2.5 point favorites. We're still waiting on news on T. Higgins. And, we're going to want to keep track over on sportnuggets.com for when that news hits. If T. Higgins is in, obviously, that's going to be an improvement for Joe Burrow. But we really need to get that update on T. Higgins for this game to have real significance. We're looking at Tua, who just got benched. Tua is now the third string quarterback on the team. He just was completely regressed this season. He was talking bad about his teammates, all sorts of issues and headaches for Tua this season, and culminates in a benching. So no Tua this week. We instead get this guy Ewers. Ewers gets a matchup against Cincinnati, who is pretty good against pass catchers, but they have been more vulnerable in other positions, like against the tight end and the running backs. So they're allowing 23.7 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. Ewers is at 4K. So it's not a bad play. Like the way that he was used in college is a way that Mike McDaniel likes to run his offense too. So he's a good fit for the team. He's got an easy matchup. He's at 4K. It could be interesting. The primary targets would be likely Darren Waller. Darren Waller against Cincy, who's giving up 30.7 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. That's like historically bad. I think the last time you saw someone this bad was 10, 15 years ago. So Waller finds himself in a good spot. Waller knocked me out of first place in the showdown contest in the fourth quarter last week with his second touchdown of the game. The first touchdown of the game that he scored put me in first place, and then he knocked me down with that second touchdown when Pittsburgh's defense wasn't doing anything at the end of the game and just allowed Tua to score 2 garbage time touchdowns at the end of that game. So Waller, good matchup against Cincinnati, 3,500. He's still relatively cheap. So I think Waller will probably be popular. Let me take a look at his ownership and see if I can get an idea on what Darren Waller's ownership is going to be this week. He is let's see. He's only 5.7% owned, so you good matchup there for Waller, about the best you can get, and he is not going to be owned. So that's another chalky spot, or not non-chalky spot that we can get on. Only 3,500 people are shying away from the new quarterback, apparently. The other target that he's going to be using is going to be Devin Achane. Achane with 18.7, 17.5, 22.4, and 22.5. He's been on a tear recently, and he's at 8,800, so he's not cheap. But if you're gonna play Ewers, you want to stack him with Achane and Waller, basically, or you could use these guys in one-offs if you want. All of that makes sense. Joe Burrow, a lot of drama with Joe Burrow recently. He's been hurt a lot throughout his career, and they don't do anything about his offensive line, and their defense sucks, and it just is miserable experience playing for the Bengals. But that's been the repeated history of playing for the Bengals. And Joe Burrow signed a massive contract in the offseason, knowing the history of the Bengals, and now he wants out. So you got to know what you're getting into with these teams before you sign these massive contracts. Things look good for the Bengals for a couple years there, and then they had a meltdown season last year with the defense. The offense was on fire last year, but the defense melted down. They got rid of their really good defensive coordinator, like passed the heat on to him, when it should really be the head coach there that should have been the one on the hot seat. But instead they got rid of the defensive coordinator, who is now doing really good over in Indy. But Joe Burrow in a matchup where the Dolphins have been pretty good against quarterbacks recently, only giving up 14.4 DraftKings points. So not the best matchup for Burrow. And the receivers don't have a great matchup either. Neither does the running back. Miami's defense has been pretty good recently. They've been giving up 18.4 DraftKings points to the running back position, 16.2 to the wideouts. That would be obviously Chase. We're waiting on news for T. Higgins. T. Higgins If he plays, that's going to improve the situation for Burrow significantly. We might want to even play Joe Burrow this week with Higgins and Chase both in the lineup against Miami, playing in warmer weather in Miami. For slots, the Bengals are getting 10.6 from that Miami D. And let's see, probably the best matchup on the Bengals side is going to be Mike Gesicki. So if we do get T. Higgins out this week, then we're going to want to consider Mike Gesicki. He's at 3,600, so he's actually more expensive than Darren Waller. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but Darren Waller is like not going to be owned this week for whatever reason, according to the projections. So you could also go with probably either of these defenses, rookie quarterback on one, and then the other situation, like with the Bengals kind of melting down last week. We got Minnesota versus the Giants. And honestly, like with that Bengals situation, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Burrow wants to lose to just try to get a higher draft pick and get some help, like from one of these like top prospects next year. With the Minnesota versus New York game, we find our friend 9 in another good spot. The Giants have been giving up 24.2 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. Problem with this game, it's a 43.5 point total. Minnesota is only 2.5 point favorites in this one, which is interesting. Jackson Dart on the other end has a difficult matchup against Minnesota, only giving up 14.4 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. And they have a defense that blitzes a ton, and their defense is solid. And, like against a rookie quarterback, it'd be difficult for a rookie quarterback to do well against this defense. If we're looking at the running back situation, Tyrone Tracy had a good week last week, 24.7 DraftKings points. The Giants are giving up 40.3 DraftKings points game to the running back. Minnesota's only giving up 20 DraftKings points. So not a great matchup for Tyrone Tracy, but that's going to make things very interesting for Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, only 9.5. He hasn't hit double digits since week 11, but this would be, about as good a matchup as you can get. In fact, it's the best matchup that a running back can get, with Giants allowing 40 DraftKings points a game to the position. So Aaron Jones should be in play. Let me check out and see what his projected ownership is. Aaron Jones is, he's way down there. He's at like under 15%. So Aaron Jones is in play for us at 5,200. Cheap price tag on him as well. Jordan Mason, if you want to get crazy, could be in play too. He had 10 attempts last week, but either one of those guys could be in play. For the receivers, the Giants are allowing 22.8 to the wideout position as well. So that's going to put Justin Jefferson in play, even though he hasn't done anything. And McCarthy just does not throw to him for whatever reason. Jordan Addison, or he throws to him, but he does not throw any catchable balls to him, or Justin Jefferson's dropping him. I don't know what the deal is. They got no chemistry. Jordan Addison, he's been doing a little bit better with McCarthy, but he's still not performing either. It seems like Jalen Naylor is the guy to stack with McCarthy. Last week he had 19.5, but he's had 3 targets and 5 targets the last 2 games with McCarthy. Earlier in the season, he had another 26 point game with him. So Naylor's the only one who's been benefiting from McCarthy. He's at 3,500. If we need a cheap value play, we'll see what the slate dictates to us. Not really interested in any of these Giants receivers in this one. Not really interested in this game apart from the running backs, honestly. And you could sneak in 9 there at 4,900. He's still coming in under 5K for his salary, so that's not bad. Tight ends in that game, not really interested in the tight ends. The Hawkinson does not have a good matchup. And Theo Johnson would be the guy that I target, but I don't like targeting rookie quarterback situations against the Vikings. All right, so let's take a look at Tampa Bay, Carolina. This is a game that I'm interested in this week. It's going way overlooked. 45.5-point total, middling total, which is good. It's going to keep people off this game. I think it's going to go over that total. Tampa Bay are 3-point favorites in this one. They're playing in Carolina. This is a revenge game for Baker Mayfield, going home or facing off against Carolina. On the Carolina side, they have Baker's old offensive coordinator. Last season, though, that didn't really give them any sort of advantage as far as the Panthers, because you see Baker Mayfield's performance in his last game against Carolina had 38.15 DraftKings points, and that was his last game of last year against Carolina. Let me see if Baker's actually had a game against them this year. He probably has. No, I don't see one. I guess they play later on, maybe in week 18 or something. But Baker's last game then is what I'm showing you on the screen. 38 DraftKings points. Bucky Irving had 23. Mike Evans had 29. Jalen McMillan had 23 as well. We go and look at the history of Baker Mayfield versus this Jags defense. Mayfield's looking at like a 5 or 6% projected ownership in this game, and that's a really good situation for us to exploit, because this is a massive playoff implication game. That last game against Carolina, 48-14. That was in week 17 of last year. Game before that, 26-23. They did have that 9-0 game, but that was before the head coach joined them. And then Baker had a 21-18 game, 26-20 game. His performances against them, that last game was 359 yards and 5 touchdowns against Carolina. And that was at home. In the game at Carolina last year, 235 yards and 1 touchdown. And previous games didn't do too well against them in 2023, where he had 137 yards and no touchdowns. In week 18, he might not have played that whole game. Had 202 yards and 1 touchdown against them in that other game of that season. And he's had one other game where he had 238 yards and a touchdown. I think that we're going to get closer to probably this 359 and 5 touchdown game this week against Carolina. Baker's got all his weapons back. They've been in a slump recently. You can see, though, that last week he ended up with 20 DraftKings points. That was his first 20 DraftKings points hit since week 10, and that was with Evans back. And Godwin's healthy. He got McMillan back last week too. So he had his full complement of pass catchers. Bryce Young is going to be the question mark. Can he keep up with Baker Mayfield this week? The Tampa Bay Bucs have been giving up 22.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. With the Carolina Panthers, they've only been giving up 13.7 DraftKings points, so they've been a good defense, but this is a division rivalry, and it's an important game with massive playoff implications. If Bryce Young is able to keep the pace going in this game, then that's going to trigger Baker Mayfield and the passing game on the Tampa side to light it up and have a decent back and forth in this one. So if we look at Bryce Young's history versus Tampa, I'm going to go back to Pro Football Reference to check that out. We go to career. I'm going to sort it by opponent. Go down to Tampa. The last game that they played, he ended up with 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. Previous game, 298 yards and 1 touchdown. That was in that loss in overtime. So he's done well against them. He had a rushing touchdown in that big game too. So both these quarterbacks have had good games against the opposing teams. And, I would expect this to be a decent game. Let's go and check out the injury situation. We do have an injury on Tampa that should impact this game, especially for Bryce Young. So we're looking at Tampa missing one of their starting cornerbacks. They've already been struggling in the secondary, and now Zion McCollum is on IR. He's their right cornerback. So that's going to open things up for these pass catchers on the Carolina side. And let's see. Other than that, we got the a couple injuries on the offensive line, Bredesen and Mouch. Bredesen on IR, and same with Mouch, I guess that's how you say it. Like, let's go to Tampa Bay and look at let's go to Carolina, look at their injuries. All right, so we got Ikem Ikwanu is questionable. That's significant. We want him to play if we want the protection there for Bryce Young. We got Trevin Wallace out, one of the linebackers. We got Tershawn Wharton out. That's a starting defensive end. That's good for Baker. And then we got like a few guys on IR as well. So this is going to be good. We want to see injuries on the defense in order for the potential of the game to shoot out a bit. So we got damage to both defenses. Bucky Irving is going to be in play. Panthers are giving up 28.8 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, and that might be playing a role in why quarterbacks have not scored a ton of fantasy points against Carolina, because they're just running the ball against them. But Bucky Irving is in a good spot, and he's had a couple 16-point weeks since he got back from injury. He got baptized a couple weeks ago because he was struggling through that injury, and he was having a bad time through that injury, and he ended up getting baptized because of it. But he had a couple good weeks, and then that 8-point dud last week. But he's in a good matchup this week for Bucky Irving. With the Panthers, the Bucs are giving up 25.6 DraftKings points, so you could use Dowdle or Chuba Hubbard in this one too. As far as the receivers, the Bucs are giving up 23.2 DraftKings points a game to the wideout position. Theoretically, that's good for Ted McMillan, but we've got their main Jamel Dean is healthy now, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult on Ted McMillan. He has not had many big games this season, but this would be the matchup where he is going to be needed. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Ted McMillan do something in this one. Coker is interesting too. Coker's been playing well with Bryce for a couple years now. So let's see. In that game last season where they scored all those points, Coker only had 5 DraftKings points. It was Adam Thielen that had a big week that week. But Coker, I think, is their slot receiver. Let me just double check that real quick. Liget's been running 38% of his routes in the slot, but let me check out what Coker's been doing real quick. I got to go to a premium page, so I can't share it. If we're looking at the right slot, that's where Coker's running 32% of his routes. If we look at the left slot, Give me a minute for it to load. If we're looking at the left slot here, well, it's taking a minute, but 32% of his routes in the right slot tells us that he's a slot receiver. In the left slot, it's 24. So over 50% of his routes in the slot for Coker, and that is where Thielen had a lot of success last season against the Bucs. So maybe Coker gets a decent game in this one if we need a run back, if we want to go heavy on the Tampa side in this one. Mike Evans had that big game against them last season in that game where they threw 5 touchdowns. Evans had 29.7 DraftKings points. The other guy that benefited was Jalen McMillan. McMillan looked good last week when he came back too. He barely missed on a touchdown, but he seemed like he didn't skip a beat, and Baker was targeting him. Ended up with only 5.8 DraftKings points, but I don't think that that does it justice. Because he looked pretty good, and he wasn't getting ignored. He's at 3,800 too, so he could be interesting this week. Emeka Egbuka is the other good rookie in this game. He had been playing poorly with Evans and Godwin hurt, but as soon as Evans came back, he started to look a lot better last week. He ended up with 10.7 or 10.4 DraftKings points off 7 targets. So Egbuka looked like he improved with Evans back. I think that is because he's not ready to be a wide receiver 1 yet. So when all those guys were hurt and all the attention was on Egbuka, he couldn't beat the coverage. But now with the attention back on Mike Evans, I think Egbuka is going to be able to slide in here again and give us some of these weeks that he had before Evans went out, like these 23, 34 point weeks. Had a 26-point week in there when Godwin returned, and then last week he started to liven up a little bit, and he's got that matchup against Carolina. Carolina is allowing 18.3 DraftKings points a game to wideouts, so not bad for Evans and Egbuka there. If we look at Godwin, the Panthers are also allowing 11.4 DraftKings points to the slot. That's a middling matchup. I like Godwin too this week. I think any one of these combination of guys is going to work for us. Like I want to stack Baker with 2 receivers. It's either going to be a mix of Evans, Egbuka, Godwin, and McMillan, and I'm going to be running it back with Coker, probably the main guy, or you could even add Bucky into that Baker stack as a potential option there. But yeah, a lot of guys here. Leggett, let's see. In that last game, he had 7.8 DraftKings points. Like I said, Thielen soaked up most of the DraftKings points in that one, but Thielen no longer there. So we're going to be looking at these other guys to potentially step up. But Leggett has a decent amount in the slot too. He could be interesting. He's going to be completely unowned. And like I said, McMillan and Coker and Leggett, I probably would only put one of those guys in a lineup unless I want to do Bryce Young stacks and stack him with 2 guys. But I think I'd probably stack him with Dowdle and one of these receivers, because Dowdle, let's see, what's he in the passing game? 1 target last week, 2 targets, 4 targets, 7 targets. We want to target Tampa with pass catching backs. What did Hubbard do? 1 target, 2 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets. They're getting about the same amount of targets. So it's really. Let's go ahead and check on our fantasy pros to see what the snap counts were for these guys. I think it's a pretty even split. If we're looking at Carolina, Chuba Hubbard at 42% to Dowdle 60% last week. That flipped prior to the bye week. And then Dowdle was running away with it for a while. But when Dowdle started to slow down, they started to even it up a bit. Let's see. Let me get a look at the coverage here real quick while I'm thinking about it. So with Tampa, the Panthers are running zone coverage at the highest rate, and the zone coverage receivers on the Tampa side are going to be, let's see, the guys with the highest target share is going to be Mike Evans at 27% target share according to PFF. Igbuka's got a 24.5% target share. Godwin only an 18.6% target share against zone coverage. The guys who have the most fantasy points, Igbuka, 0.44 fantasy points per route run. McMillan, 0.41 fantasy points per route run. And Evans at 0.33 fantasy points per route run against zone coverage. So Igbuka is going to be interesting in this one. He's not going to be owned either. So let's go back to our DraftKings page. Going to skip to the next game, Buffalo, Cleveland. Buffalo, Cleveland, Buffalo's defense is terrible versus the run. They're allowing 26 DraftKings points a game. Looks like they've gotten a little bit better recently. They used to be, I think, the worst or one of the worst. It's only a 42.5 point total in this one. 10.5 point favorites for Buffalo. Sanders, kind of ran dry with him. Everything's against this dude. Like the offensive line is terrible. They might be getting some pieces back. We're going to want to keep track of sportnuggets.com to see what the status is for some of these guys, because that could be significant on the run game and maybe even help Sanders out a little bit, but it's a little bit more of a difficult matchup. I don't like Sanders this week like I did last week. We got Wyatt Teller questionable. We got Conklin on IR. Conklin and Teller are the guys that we're going to want to keep track of to see if they're playing this week. On the defense, Cleveland lost Malik Collins, so that's a significant hit for their defense. Denzel Ward is out this week too. That's going to improve the matchup for Josh Allen. Question is how much is Josh Allen going to be needed in this easy matchup? Or not easy matchup, but a matchup that they should win handily. On the Bills side, I don't see Curtis Samuel on IR. I don't think Curtis Samuel's even on the team unless he got signed on the practice squad. Mecole Hardman is questionable. Jordan Phillips is out. And other than that, we got damage to the safeties, which should improve the matchup for Harold Fannin Jr. Let me check and see what the Bills have been giving up to the tight end position. They've only been giving up 8.6 DraftKings points a game. The best matchup in this game for Cleveland is going to be versus the slot. Let's see. Oh, versus the slot. I said Buffalo was allowing 26. They're only allowing 24.8 to running backs. So they've been actually pretty middling versus running backs lately. So it's not as good a matchup as it used to be. On the Bills side, the Browns are giving up 26 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, which is going to make Cook interesting. So James Cook in play this week. The tight ends, I'm not interested in the tight ends. The slot weakness for the matchup for the Browns, that's going to make Bond interesting. Bond's been a slot receiver for those guys. He's at 3K, so if we need a value play, keep that in mind that Buffalo has been weak versus the slot. But James Cook is really the guy that I'd be interested in this matchup. Quinshon Judkins, not really interested there the way that he's been playing in much better matchups. Dallas versus the Chargers. This one, we're looking at a 49.5 point total with Chargers as 2.5 point dogs in this one. We got Dallas as favorites in this one. Dallas is now eliminated from the playoffs. We can take a look at that real quick. So after these wins by the Eagles, the Cowboys are now out of the playoffs. They've been eliminated. You see some of these other teams that are eliminated too. Giants, Cardinals, Commanders, Saints, Falcons, Vikings. Vikings, I think they had slim hopes. Cowboys are eliminated. On the AFC, while we're here, Chiefs eliminated. Dolphins eliminated. Bengals eliminated. They all got eliminated last week. So nothing really to play for any of those guys. So that Miami game is going to be, just interesting for a narrative standpoint. Can Joe Burrow get it together? How will Miami's rookie quarterback do? All mysteries that will be solved this week. On the bubble, Panthers on the bubble. That's why that game's so important. We got the Lions on the bubble. Their game versus Pittsburgh is going to be very important this week. The Colts, I believe that is a Monday or Sunday night game. And then we got the Ravens. I believe that's also a Monday or Sunday night game. Bills. This Bills game is going to be important. They got to win that game. They're trying to win the division. They're 10-4. The Patriots are 11-3. The Broncos currently have the only AFC team to clinch the division. They're trying to clinch the West against Jacksonville. We'll get to that in a minute. Seattle, with that win versus the Rams, that makes the Rams very interesting in playoff best ball, because if the Rams don't clinch that number one spot and they don't get that bye, the Rams are going to be very tasty in playoff best ball. We got the Eagles, who just clinched a berth there, and they just clinched the NFC East as well, I believe. Yeah, they had to have clinched the NFC East. We got the Bears with that win tonight. Significant win for the Bears. That's what makes it crucial for the Lions to win, because the Lions are trying to get past the Packers. And so, yeah, we got a lot of important playoff games this week, and that's something that we got to pay a lot of attention to this week. This game is important for the Chargers. Go back to that tab real quick. Chargers currently have a spot, but it's not locked in by any means. The Colts and the Ravens are going to be in play. The Chargers, they want to win this game to clinch it. I think they probably will clinch it if the Colts lose too. So if the Colts lost and the Chargers lost, then they'd have 2 games left in the season. So I think that they clinch it. I don't know strength of schedule against the Colts, what that situation is, but important game for the Chargers this week nonetheless. Let's go over to check out the game here. The Chargers have had a good defense this season. They're only allowing 11.5 DraftKings points to the quarterback position. Already talked about it, how Prescott's season's over, but they're playing in Dallas. So you can imagine that they're not going to just lay down in this game. Herbert has the better matchup with Dallas giving up 23.8 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. That's going to set him up to have a decent game. Problem is he's got no offensive line, so that's going to suck for Herbert. If we're looking at running backs, both teams middling defenses. The Cowboys only giving up 24 DraftKings points. The Chargers giving up 21.7. So 2 middling matchups for the running backs. I don't really like the timeshare here for the Chargers anyways. Williams would be the guy I'd be interested in there. With the wide receivers, Dallas has been a good target for slot receivers. They're giving up 14.4 DraftKings points. So that could make McConkey interesting this week. McConkey has not done much recently. He's at 6,100 too, so he's cheap relative to what we've seen his value like last year and through parts of this year. So he's relatively cheap. They're going to need McConkey in this game. He's got a really good matchup. I think we could see McConkey rise from the dead this week. Let me see what his ownership is. McConkey's looking at a 4.3% owned. So, like I'm saying, like these guys that have the playoff implications are the guys that we want to target this week. A lot of people are targeting these schlubby games, but like this McConkey matchup is great. And he's going to be like under 5%, and they need to win this game. So look for McConkey to rise from the dead this week. It's also a good matchup for Quentin Johnson if he plays. I don't know if he's going to play, though. Going to have to keep an eye on Sport Nuggets for this one. Let's go there now and see if there's any Quentin Johnson news. We'll see if there's any updates here. Questionable with a groin injury. He missed last week's game. Limited in his practice participation. So we haven't gotten any recent updates on Quentin Johnson. We're going to want to keep track of his status. That's going to be a significant one. Keenan Allen. It's going to be interesting this week as well with that. The points that are being allowed by Dallas to wideouts. Let's see. He had a rest day earlier this week. They could be planning on using it. They gave him a rest day on Wednesday. Looks like he's been getting that all season, though. Let's see. Key target here. Going to have to explore Keenan Allen a little bit this week, too. The matchup's too good for these receivers. And it's going to be a pass funnel game because the Dallas defense has improved massively since it was Quinnen Williams, I believe, that they acquired. He's improved their run defense significantly. And, it's just going to lead to a pass funnel situation here. CeeDee Lamb would be the guy I think I'd be interested in on the opposite side here. Let me see real quick. I want to get an idea. To see what kind of coverage the Chargers run. They're running zone coverage at the third highest rate. And the guy that benefits the most there, CeeDee Lamb with a 21.8% target share. Pickens is not far behind him at 20.8. Pickens scoring 0.43 fantasy points per route run, and Lamb at 0.44. So they're basically clones according to PFF. Let me see if I can find another nugget here on CeeDee Lamb. All right, so let's see. Bad matchup overall for these receivers. We're basically just a crapshoot between Lamb and Pickens in this one. As far as the slot points allowed versus the wideouts, They're allowing 6.7. The Chargers are 6.7 fantasy points per game to slots, 14.9 to wideouts. This game has a 49.5 point total, which is why I'm trying to struggle to figure out why it's so high, because the matchup against the Chargers is not good, and Dallas is eliminated from the playoffs. Let's go over here and see if there's any injuries to the Chargers. Chargers defense here. We got Molden is questionable, one of the safeties. We got Tier Tart is questionable. Keep an eye on these injuries. Mickens is out. There's got to be a reason why this total is so high. Let me see if that's changed, because I got these totals on Wednesday. I'm going to see what that total is now that the Eagles have clinched it. Let's see. The Cowboys still 49.5 point total, and it's actually gotten closer because Cowboys are now 1.5 point favorites in this one. So, well, it's gotten a little tighter. They were 2.5 point favorites. Now they're 1.5 point favorites. So, I mean, there's just a home team advantage there. But like, the Chargers should win this game handily. They got the much better matchup. I don't see this game being close. But I mean, the Cowboys are capable of putting up offense. They obviously got the weapons. But I'd be looking at McConkey. Herbert, if you think it's going to hit that 49.5 point total, I'd be going with Herbert to McConkey stacks. Maybe add in Quentin Johnson or Allen and double stack it there, and then run it back. You obviously got Lamb and Pickens, both viable run back options. Jets versus Saints. This game, we are looking at let's see, what's the total on this game? We got a 40.5 point total with the Saints as 4.5 point favorites. That makes sense because Shook has actually looked pretty decent. Like, he's actually been a pretty good draft pick. He has a good head coach there. That head coach, former offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, and now he's doing well in New Orleans. They haven't been winning a ton of games, but like their offense hasn't looked like shit, basically. And then Shook has looked pretty good. He even looked good with Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler actually looked good with this offensive coordinator too. They moved to Shook, and since they've moved to him, he's had multiple good weeks. I mean, this kid was a good draft pick on the Saints. He's actually pretty good. He's at 5,400 though. So his salary has gone way up. The Saints are getting only 14.6 DraftKings points a game from the quarterback position. So it's not a great matchup, but that's probably because teams are running the ball a lot more against the Jets. We got Kamara out, we got Neal out now. So it's going to be Audric Estime. So that tells me Shook is going to get a lot more opportunity, probably. Estime, former Bronco, and the head coach of the Broncos Sean Payton used to be pretty high on him. He used to talk him up a lot last season and give us all teases and showdowns, and then he would not really deliver anything. But he did show potential in a couple games. So Estime's not a bad running back. He's at $5K though. That's pretty pricey for this guy. I don't like that price on him. I don't know why. Well, because Devin Neal probably got that injury announcement probably came pretty early, so they were able to price up Estime. With the wideouts, Jets are only allowing 17.4 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. 7.6 to slots, 10.1 to the tight end position. I think Shook can probably beat this matchup. He's pricey. Like, I don't like the matchup for the passing game in this one. Estimates the guy. like to turn to in this one, or Breece Hall, because the Saints are allowing 25.8 DraftKings points a game. They've been good. It's like clones with these defenses. They've been good against the passing game and bad against the run game. The Jets do have a middling matchup, though, against the wideouts for a wideout defense for the Saints. So, that could make Mitchell interesting. Adonai Mitchell getting a lot of targets, 10 targets, 6 targets, 12 targets, 4,500. So it's still relatively cheap. Problem is he's got some scrub throwing the ball to him this week again. It's looking like Cook is going to be the quarterback. Let's see if we can get a confirmation on Sport Nuggets on that. I read that in a article that I read too, so I just want to get confirmation. Because if Tyrod is going to be the quarterback, then I like Adonai Mitchell this week. But if it's going to be that scrubby guy, okay, so he's set as QB2. He's going to be the backup. So that's unfortunate. We're going to have Cook throwing the ball to him. Undrafted free agent. He did have 22 completions for 176 yards and a touchdown, threw 3 interceptions last week. Jets are starting this guy because they don't want to win the game. Breece Hall, limited last week, only 12 attempts, 5.7 DraftKings points. He's down to 5,900. You could take a flyer on him versus the Saints, but they're really not incentivized to win. And if he's got any sort of injury, then they might be limiting him. Davis got usage last week. He ended up scoring a touchdown, 9 attempts for 58 yards. He's at 4,400. I don't like anyone in this game except for Mitchell if Tyrod was playing, but he's not. So let's move on. Estimate for the salary saver. That's about it in that game. Kansas City versus Tennessee. This is an interesting one. We're looking at a 37.5 point total. 3.5 point favorites for KC. They're playing in Tennessee. I don't mind Minshew in this one at 4,500. He's dirt cheap. Problem is we are missing Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is out. So Worthy, though, is going to be interesting because Worthy can pick up some of that slack. And Hollywood Brown is going to be interesting, too. Those are the guys that are going to benefit from this. Tennessee giving up 23.7 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They're giving up 24.4 to wideouts. With them being eliminated, Worthy's been playing with a torn labrum, so they could decide to give him a little bit of a rest, but he doesn't have an injury designation. So, the Chiefs aren't the type of team that are just going to lay down to close out the season. They play with too much pride, and I don't think they really care where they're at in the draft. And they're not going to really be able to improve their situation anyways. Slot receivers, the Titans are giving up 12.5 to the slot, 15.4 to tight ends. So Minshew was locking in on Kelsey last week, so Kelsey could be interesting paired with Minshew. Kelsey's at 4,700. I don't know why he's so freaking expensive. On the other side, Okonkwo, it's a middling matchup against the tight ends on the other side. The good matchup is going to be for wideouts. So DK is their slot receiver, but DK could be interesting. Io Manor would probably be more interesting with that matchup where the Chiefs are giving up 22.6 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. And Ridley is on IR still. Thornton, unfortunately, is out in this one. So we don't get a good Thornton game this week. But Worthy, Brown, Kelsey, all good stacking partners for Gardner Minshew this week. You could run it back with DK or, potentially Ao Manor. All right, so let's go to Jacksonville, Denver. This game, we are looking at a 45.5 point total with Jacksonville as 3-point dogs. This one is significant too. Let's see what it was here. Jacksonville, do they have a chance of winning the number 1 overall seed? They're 10-4. Broncos are 12-2. So if they win this game and win out the season, the Jags could theoretically take this top spot from the Broncos because they would have the tiebreaker there. So yeah, Jacksonville is playing for the number 1 overall seed. This is an important game for both teams. Both teams, this is going to be an important one. And Denver, obviously the better defense in this matchup. Denver is giving up only 16.6 DraftKings points. That's actually a middling matchup. Denver's actually been vulnerable. Or no, I'm sorry. They're giving up 16.6. Yeah, this is a middling matchup. Denver's actually been vulnerable to the wideouts. They've been giving up 23.6 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. They've been giving up 19.8 DraftKings points a game to the slot. I mean, to the tight end position. So good matchup for Strange here. Brenton Strange, if you wanted to go with a guy, he might be who they lean on. He's at 3,900. And Brian Thomas Jr. in a good spot as well. And Jacoby Myers has been running a lot of his routes out wide. So Myers and Thomas Jr. are both in play this week with that weakness against the Broncos there. Now, I would guess that Thomas would be the one that gets the Surtain treatment. So Myers could be interesting. It all kind of depends on which of these guys, we think is going to be primarily guarded by Surtain and which one is going to get the most opportunity. But one of these guys could be interesting this week in an important game. Jacksonville also very weak against the tight end. We do have a revenge game situation with Evan Ingram. They're just not using him. 3 DraftKings points and 2 DraftKings points in the last 2 weeks. Not very good there. I'd rather use Strange, and I'm not necessarily interested in 2 tight ends unless the build tells me otherwise. So interesting game there. Playoff implications. That should be an important one. Atlanta versus Arizona. Looking at a 47.5 point total with Atlanta as 2.5 point favorites in this one. Not a great matchup for McBride. Atlanta's only giving up 9.9 DraftKings points, but McBride's a de facto wide receiver. Atlanta is giving up 29.5 DraftKings points to wideouts. I mean, this is probably the best matchup that we've seen Brissett in a few weeks. And he put up 21 points against Houston. He put up 20 against the Rams. He put up, he's just been like 20 DraftKings points lock every week. And he's at 5,300, so he's still cheap. So, it's just like he's going to be chalky. He's going to give you about 20 DraftKings points. He's going to put up 4x his salary. So, you can still use this guy, Jacoby Brissett. And you can stack him with, well, the unfortunate thing is that we got Marvin Harrison looking like he's going to play. How did they not have a picture of Marvin Harrison yet? Let's see. Let's go over to Sport Nuggets again. We'll check out and see if Marvin Harrison has any updates. We got the updates rolling in on Sport Nuggets. It refreshes probably about every few minutes, no more than 5 minutes, I believe. Expected to return, but on limited snap count. That's according to Adam Schefter. You know, that's good news for Michael Wilson. So Wilson, he needs Harrison out to be putting up these points, but 36 DraftKings points, 24 DraftKings points, 40. He only had 16.4, but he was facing Houston. I mean, that's still good, like, because Houston's secondary is really good. So Wilson is in play. He's at 6,900. He's getting up there in price, but you can definitely still use him. And if you're feeling saucy, you could go with Marvin Harrison here. On the other side, with the Falcons, Drake London, we're waiting on news for him to see if he's going to be back this week. We can go back to Sport Nuggets, clear out Harrison, and see what's up with Drake London. So the situation with Drake London, the Cardinals are giving up 21.3 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. They've been more vulnerable against the run, giving up 28.4 DraftKings points. So if we're targeting him, we want to target the Bijan Robinson in this matchup. Expected to return despite knee injury. That's another Schefter update. Let's see. We can go and look directly at the tweet here. So yeah, expected to return here for London, which should be interesting in this matchup. Like I said, the total is 47.5. That's a pretty decent total. Kirk Cousins had a great week last week. Looking at Cousins, he had 29.9 DraftKings points. Matchup is middling, but if Brissett's putting up points, maybe we see Kirk Cousins with Drake London and Bijan Robinson doing well. So he's got plenty of weapons. He's also got Kyle Pitts. Pitts in a middling matchup with the Cardinals giving up 13.9 DraftKings points. Pitts has been heavily targeted recently, and you saw that monster game out of him. Did not do good for my best ball lineups that had him because the rest of my teams basically sucked last week. So I didn't get any teams through in my best ball semifinals, but I had a decent amount of Pitts. Just the rest of my guys just completely failed. So interesting situation here with the matchup in this game. I like the running backs. Running back on the other side is Carter. We got a lot of damage to the running backs for the Cardinals, but the matchup is good with the, let's see, the Falcons are giving up 28.7 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, so Carter's in play. So, pretty good game environment there. Also playing in a dome, obviously. We got Pittsburgh versus Detroit. Speaking of domes, and this is another massive playoff implication game. We got a massive total, 51.5 point total. We saw Rodgers slither out of his grave last week and get 17 DraftKings points. He had 224 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. Not a lot of rushing upside, though, obviously, with Rodgers. So, and plus he's got the Arthur Smith like ball and chain on his leg that just, Arthur Smith, his offenses are just unnecessarily just stupid. Jared Goff, we got Jared Goff in a good matchup this week against Pittsburgh. They're giving up 21.5 DraftKings points a game, or 21.3 DraftKings points a game. we got some damage to Pittsburgh's defense on top of it. So both these teams are really banged up in the defense. So we're looking at Pittsburgh first. We're missing a left guard for Pittsburgh. We're missing Broderick Jones as well on IR, like several guys on IR on the offensive line. With the defense, though, we're missing TJ Watt still with that collapsed lung and James Pierre. We're also missing one of the nickelbacks in Dante Kent. We're missing Corey Trice, Deshaun Elliott, Nick Herbig also out. So we're missing a bunch of guys on this defense against a high-powered offense like the Lions. And the Lions, on their defense, are missing just about everybody. Or at least they have a lot of questionable guys. Kirby Joseph on IR, Brian Branch on IR, Terrion Arnold on IR. Their defensive front is still good, but their secondary is just completely like banged up. So Aaron Rodgers should be able to pick apart like this secondary full of like guys off the street pretty much. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. How do you have a Jared Goff, speaking of not having images? Well, maybe they don't have images for anyone anymore because they don't have Rodgers either. Let's see. So the passing game is interesting in this one. I think the Lions' better matchup is going to be in the slot. So we're going to see a better matchup this week for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I've been on Jameson Williams the past couple weeks, but Amon-Ra has another good matchup. He had 44 DraftKings points last week against the Rams. Finds himself in another good matchup. Running back on the Pittsburgh side, the Lions are giving up only 15 DraftKings points. On the Detroit side, the Pittsburgh Steelers only giving up 20.2. So both teams are good against the run. Detroit giving up 28 to wideouts. All that damage there. But Metcalf barely gets targeted in this stupid Arthur Smith defense or offense. But hopefully we see one of these 12 target days for DK Metcalf this week. That would put him in play. Let me see what his ownership projection is. I know that Aaron Rodgers was pretty high. So Metcalf, we're looking at 27% for DK Metcalf. And we don't know if Arthur Smith's even going to target this guy. So, he could be an easy fade, honestly. He's going to be at 5,400, though, so he's cheap. So with the other matchups in this game, Detroit has a good tight end matchup, but they don't have very good tight ends. And it's a bad matchup for the Pittsburgh. So really it's DK Metcalf or bust in this game for the Steelers. But even in those circumstances, you never know what's going to happen in Arthur Smith's offense. So, you play him with a grain of salt, but he's going to be heavily owned. And we've gone over games where I actually like guys better this week that are probably in more trustworthy situations. Vegas versus Houston. Don't really have an interest in this game. Looking at a 37.5 point total. Houston, maybe Woody Marks. He's questionable, though. Let's see if we got any nuggets on him. And check out Woody Marks on sportnuggets.com. Expected to play through his ankle injury. So he's got an ankle injury. He's got a cushy matchup. That ankle's a concern. But let me see what it does to his ownership. Going to make him, he's only got 1.9% owned, projected ownership. And he's in a matchup against the Raiders, which they should handle easily. And the Raiders are giving up 27.5 DraftKings points a game. Nico Collins also in a good spot because the Raiders are giving up 24.4 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. Let me see what the ownership is there. 8%. So we got Nico Collins and Woody Marks in very good matchups, and they're going to be like way under owned. 7,500 for Nico. It's pretty expensive. He'd probably have to put up about 28 DraftKings points for us to be that 4X that we like. He hasn't put that up all season, so maybe a little too pricey for Nico Collins. Higgins, though, at 4,100 is interesting. 5, 5, and 9 and 7 targets. Higgins could be interesting this week. Let me check and see what his ownership is. Yeah, Higgins is 5% owned. So he's cheap. He's in a good matchup. We're going to keep Higgins on our player pool this week. And you see what Higgins has done. 1 target, 5 targets, 5 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets. So he's been targeted this season. So let's get on with the lineups. Obviously, I like this Tampa Bay game. Let's start here. I'm going to put Mayfield. I'm going to put Evans in there with him. And I'm going to put Igbuka. And I'm going to run it back with Coker. And let's get Amon-Ra. I already know I want Amon-Ra this week. So let's get Amon-Ra in there. Running backs. I'm going to go with Achane. Does not leave me with much left to play with here. Let me see. With my defense, what's the cheapest I can go on defense without killing myself here? Let's go with the Chargers, D. 2,400, important game for them. Gives me a little bit of salary relief. Let's check out the tight end situation, see if we can get a cheap tight end here. We got Jonnu versus Detroit at 2,700. We got Ingram in that revenge game at 2,900. Hawkinson did not look bad last week. We got Knox at 33. And then we're getting up there in price. Let's put Waller in there. Leaves us at 4,600 for our final running back spot. And we did see some value this week. Estime. How much was Estime? I think he was like 5K. Let's see. Well, let's reconsider our running back situation here. We got Bijan in a decent matchup, but he's too expensive. We got, you know what? If we want exposure to this game, let's get Gibbs in there, and let's see what that does for a running back situation if we got 4,900 to play with. We got Tajay Spears. We got Hubbard. We could run it back with Hubbard as an option there. That's an option for us. Let's take out Gibbs. Let's go a little bit more. Let's go a little bit lower. Let's go with Cook. Another good matchup. You know what? Let's go with Woody Marks. We got 6,800 left at that point. We could put Irving in there and just make it a triple stack. We could go Javonte. We could go Dowdle. All these guys are going to be viable. We got Jalen Warren. We got RJ Harvey. I don't like his matchup though. I don't like Harvey's matchup so much, and I don't like Warren's matchup honestly. And I don't like Judkins this week. I would probably, you know what? I don't like any of these guys, so I don't mind going like skipping down to that cheap that cheap running back and going with Hubbard, and then adding in one of these more expensive guys like Gibbs or something like that. If you wanted to just completely punt the defense and go with the Raiders or the Jets, let's go with the Jets. And that gives us 8,900 for our final running back spot. So that could put us in HN territory, stacking him with Hubbard there. Or we could go Gibbs in that important matchup. Cook in an important matchup. If we wanted a guy, let's go with Cook. Let me see what the ownership is on these guys. All right, so Gibbs is going to be the highest owned. Oh, you know what? Aaron Jones had that really good matchup too. Let's put Jones in here and see what that does for us. Jones is at 5,200. It leaves us with 8,500 for our running back. So we put Gibbs and Jones in there. I don't mind going that route. And Jones isn't going to draw a ton of ownership. So, that's an angle that we could play. Let's clear that out. People want to stack this Pittsburgh-Detroit game. So if I was stacking this game, I'd probably lean Goff because at least he's got some, like a consistency with his offense. If I'm going Goff, I'd go St. Brown. I'd probably stack him with Gibbs too. And then I'd run it back with Metcalf because we're going to need some offensive output on the other side in order for that to work. For my defense, let's go back to the Chargers there. Looking at running back next. Let's put Aaron Jones in this one. So I want to try to get Panthers and Bucs in there too. But I've got a lot of expensive guys in this one. But let's see if we can get Igbuka or someone like that. So Igbuka is pretty cheap at 5,900, fortunately. So then our tight end, we could go with Waller. Or let's go with Strange in this one. I want guys with like incentive this week. So for my flex, that's going to leave me with 4K. Let's see if we can find a Denver guy at 4K that would be worthy of playing. I think I'm going to probably go right to that double tight end that I said that I wasn't interested in. So we'd be able to put Ingram in there against him. That gives us $1,000 more in salary. We could take Igbuka out there. And I think we can get Evans if we do that. Yeah, we could put Evans in there with that salary savings. Or we could put Evans in there anyways, and let's take out Ingram and put in, we got 3,600 at the flex spot in that situation. And let's put in, we could put Leggett in there. We could go Gesicki. Waller. I don't mind going Waller there. Let's see. So it basically gets us in that double tight end situation with this type of build, but I don't hate it with these circumstances. I wish we could get Jalen McMillan in there. Yeah. So I would just go Jalen McMillan and Evans, or just use one of those tight ends and then you see what your options are there for defense. But those are a couple routes that we can go, a popular one, and then one that I think is going to go overlooked. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get me to 4,500 subscribers. I need about 40 something to get there. Make sure to like the video. When I get to 70 likes, I'm going to put my insights up. Subscribe over on sportnuggets.com. We're going to go premium pretty soon. We're going to have a free subscription too. So when you sign up now, you're going to be in that free membership. But we're going to give an offer to everybody who's in that free membership before we go to the paywall. We're going to give offers to them to sign up for premium at a life of the subscription discount. So take advantage of that. And that's it for this week. Be putting out Sunday night game script show at some point on Sunday. So make sure you're subscribed and you got the alerts going there. And keep an eye on those insights over on sportnuggets.com. I'll post in the YouTube chat when I have those up. It's usually like an hour or so before lock, because I want to make sure that we're getting all the inactive information. So if that stuff starts rolling in early, then I'll have more to work with. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys and good luck.